The moment I opened my eyes, everything was too bright. The lights above buzzed with a faint, sterile hum, and the ceiling tiles blurred in and out of focus like I was watching the world from underwater. My entire body felt like it had been run over by a truck, and judging by the sharp throb in my left leg and the tightness of the monitor clipped to my finger, that might not be far from the truth. But before I could ask what had happened or even remember what day it was, I felt something warm wrapped around my hand. Someone was holding it, firm, steady, like they were grounding me to the here and now. My mind, sluggish and thick with whatever drugs they'd pumped into me, slowly dragged in the shape beside the bed. The outline of a woman, long hair falling forward as she leaned over, her other hand gently brushing the hair from my face. I blinked hard. Once. Twice. And then the shape came into view. Evie. My voice was a croak, dry and cracked. What the hell are you doing here? Her head snapped up. Evelyn Hart, of all people, dressed in a charcoal blazer and ripped black jeans that didn't match any kind of hospital visitation etiquette, with smudged eyeliner like she hadn't slept in days, and that familiar smirk replaced by something I'd never seen before on her face. Worry. You put me as your emergency contact, she said, her voice quiet but clipped, like she was holding back 1,000 things she wasn't ready to say. I stared at her. That was a joke. I figured, she muttered. Didn't stop the hospital from calling me when you passed out in the stairwell of your apartment building and ended up with a concussion and a fractured tibia. Shit. Memory was starting to come back in broken pieces. The dizziness, the shortness of breath, the missed meals because of deadlines and double shifts at the bar, and the gallery internship. The way everything had started spinning before I even made it to the 3rd floor. If you enjoyed this content and want to support the channel in a special way, try clicking the thanks button below. It's the one with the heart and $sign icon. With super thanks, you can make a direct contribution to the channel, which helps me keep creating awesome videos for you. How long was I out? I asked. Almost 16 hours, she said. They called me at 2 a.m. And you came? I thought it was a prank, she admitted. But then they said your name, and that you were unconscious. So yeah, I came. My chest tightened, and not from the foredrip. I hadn't seen Evie in 2 years. Not since we'd burned each other down at that graduation party. Not since I told her to go to hell for kissing me, and then pretending like it didn't mean anything. We'd stopped talking, blocked each other on everything. I thought she'd moved to Portland. She looked older now, sharper. But her eyes, those stormy green eyes, were the same. I can leave, she said, like the thought had just occurred to her. She let go of my hand abruptly, and the absence of her touch made my skin feel colder. You probably don't want me here. But I didn't answer right away. I didn't know how to, because somehow, in the middle of all the pain and the confusion and the flickers of our messy, unfinished past, the only thing I could think about was the warmth of her hand in mine, and how stupidly comforting it had felt. You stayed, I said instead. Even though you hate me. She laughed bitterly. I don't hate you, Riley. I looked away. Could have fooled me. She stood up and walked to the window, crossing her arms over her chest. Her back was stiff, tense. You think I'd be here if I hated you? I didn't know what to say. Look, she said after a moment. I'm not here to reopen old wounds. When they said you didn't have anyone else listed, and I was the only name on file. Yeah, I said, staring at the scratchy hospital blanket. Didn't expect it to matter. It was just a joke. You know? A dumb joke I put on the forum last year because I thought, who else would I call in a crisis? And your name just came out. The silence stretched between us, heavy with too many unsaid things. She turned back around, her face unreadable. You could have died. I blinked. I know we haven't talked. And yeah, we ended things like idiots. But I never wanted you to get hurt. And when I saw you like that, hooked up to all those machines, I thought I was going to throw up. Something inside me cracked. I'd spent so long pretending she didn't matter anymore. That what we had was just a blip, a confusing detour in an otherwise straight path. But seeing her now, raw and unfiltered, and standing in this too-white room like a ghost from a life I'd tried to erase. I knew it wasn't true. She mattered. Maybe too much. "Evie," I started, but my throat closed up. She stepped closer. "You should rest. I don't want you to go." That stopped her in her tracks. She looked down at me, eyes searching mine for something, permission maybe, or absolution. "You still have my number memorized?" she asked. I nodded. "I never deleted yours either," she said. "Even when I should've." I reached for her hand again. She hesitated for half a second before taking it, her fingers curling around mine like they belonged there. And just like that, the distance between us didn't feel so impossible. Outside, the sun started to rise. It wasn't until the nurse came in with the morning rounds that Evie finally let go of my hand. Even then, it felt reluctant, like her fingers had to be peeled from mine one by one, as if some invisible part of her didn't want to stop touching me. The nurse checked my vitals, took notes on a clipboard, adjusted the 4-drip, all while Evie stood off to the side like some shadow stitched into the corner of the room.
She didn't speak.
She didn't leave. When the nurse left, the silence that remained was heavy again, familiar in a way I hadn't expected. "You're still here," I said. "You sound surprised," she replied, without looking at me. "I am." She finally met my gaze, and for a second I saw it, just a flicker, some old version of us, back when we used to sit on the roof of my building at 2 a.m, sharing a bottle of cheap wine and talking about things we never told anyone else. "I'm not here out of pity," she said. "In case that's what you're thinking." "Didn't think that." "Good." She moved toward the chair beside my bed and sat down again, folding her arms across her chest, legs crossed, guarded but grounded. I'd forgotten how still she could be. Evie had this way of occupying space like she owned it, even when she wasn't speaking. It used to drive me crazy in all the worst and best ways. "They said you'll be here for at least another 2 days, she said. "Then crutches for a while." "You sound like you plan on sticking around to find out." "Maybe I do." I stared at her, my heart thudding just a little too loud for someone who'd recently had a medical scare. "Why?" She hesitated. "Because I never stopped wondering what would happen if we ever talked again." I didn't know what to say to that. My instinct was to retreat, like always, like I'd done the night she kissed me, and then laughed it off like it was nothing. But we weren't 19 anymore. We weren't drunk on adrenaline and too much vodka, clinging to a friendship that was already warping into something messier, deeper, more dangerous. "You left," I said finally, "after that night. You just disappeared."
"Because you told me to."
"I didn't think you'd actually listen." She exhaled through her nose, rubbing her temples like she didn't know what to do with her hands. "You said you never wanted to see me again." I was angry. So was I. She looked up again. "But you meant it, didn't you? You meant it when you said I ruined everything." "No," I whispered. "I meant it when I said I didn't understand what you wanted from me." She leaned back in the chair, her jaw tightening. "I wanted you. I still do." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I opened my mouth and closed it again. "You don't get to say that now." "Why not?" "Because it's been 2 years. Because you kissed me and then acted like it didn't mean anything. Because you left without an explanation. And now you show up here and act like we can just rewind everything." "You think I didn't regret it every damn day?" she said, her voice rising, controlled but sharp. "You think I didn't check your socials from a burner account like a coward just to see if you were okay?" I blinked. "You what?"
"Yeah."
"That's right. I didn't block you."
"I wanted to. God, I should have."
"But I couldn't. I wanted to see you move on. I wanted to see you smiling again. I just couldn't do it with you looking at me like I'd betrayed you." The tears surprised me. I hadn't cried in front of her back then. I'd been too proud, too hurt, too everything. But now they came, slow and quiet and bitter, running down my cheeks as I lay in this damn hospital bed with a leg that felt like it had been through a war and a heart that hadn't really healed. "Why did you kiss me that night?" I asked.
She stood.
"Because I was in love with you, and I was scared, and it felt like the last time I'd ever get to show you. But you didn't say that." "I know. You left me with nothing but silence. I know. You broke my heart. And I never stopped paying for it, she said, stepping closer again. Riley, I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not even asking you to like me again. When they called, and I thought you might die before I ever got to say any of this. I couldn't live with that. She was standing right beside me now. And despite everything, despite the anger and the wounds still so raw they might as well have bled through the sheets, all I could feel was the pull, magnetic and stupid, and so undeniably her. I reached up, weak and trembling, and touched her wrist. She froze. I missed you, I whispered. Her eyes closed, her breath catching like she was holding something back. Say that again. I missed you. She opened her eyes and looked at me like I was the only person who ever mattered. I never stopped missing you. I wanted to kiss her. God, I wanted it so badly it hurt. But I couldn't. Not like this. Not yet. Instead, I squeezed her wrist and didn't let go.
She stayed.
For hours. We didn't talk much after that. She pulled out her phone, played quiet music through a single wireless earbud we shared, and we lay there, me half-drugged, her half-broken, but somehow whole in the space between. And when I started to drift off again, she didn't move. She just sat beside me, her hand tangled in mine, as the hospital lights dimmed and the weight of the past started to lift, inch by inch. The hospital room at night was quiet in the kind of way that felt loud. The beeping of the monitor, the hum of fluorescent lights, the occasional footstep in the hallway, it all blended into a soft, pulsing white noise that matched the heaviness in my chest.
Evie hadn't left.
I thought she might after that last conversation, after I admitted I missed her, after we stared too long and said too little. But instead, she'd pulled her legs into the chair beside me, draped her blazer over her lap, and dozed off with one hand still lightly resting on mine. I hadn't meant to fall asleep again, but I had, and when I woke up sometime after midnight, she was still there, still holding on. My body hurt. My head was thick. But my heart was louder than anything else. I stared at her in the dim light, at the way her head tilted slightly to the side as she slept, at the tension in her jaw even in rest, like she never really let herself be unguarded anymore. Maybe she never had. I remembered a night during sophomore year, one of the first times she ever let me see her cry. We'd been crammed into my twin bed after a party, half drunk, half buzzed, both of us still pretending we were just friends. She told me then, voice shaky, that her mother hadn't called on her birthday, that she wasn't surprised, that she'd stopped expecting anything years ago. I didn't say anything. I just pulled her closer and held her until the sun rose. I remembered the smell of her shampoo, how her fingers clutched the hem of my t-shirt like she was scared I'd let go. Back then, we hadn't kissed yet, but something in me had already fallen for her. And now here she was again, in another shitty room, in another moment we hadn't planned, and I didn't know what to do with the ache crawling up my throat. You're staring, she murmured suddenly, eyes still closed. I jumped. Sorry. Her lips twitched slightly, but her voice was hoarse. Didn't say I minded. I looked away, embarrassed, but she didn't move her hand. If anything, she slid her fingers between mine more deliberately. You always did that, I said quietly. Pretend you're asleep, and then say something when I least expect it. You always did that, she echoed. Stare at me like you were trying to memorize everything. I felt my face heat. Maybe I was. Her eyes opened slowly, locking onto mine in the pale half-light of the room. You don't get to say things like that and expect me not to feel something. Then feel it, I whispered. I've been pretending I didn't for 2 years. I'm tired. She sat up straighter, stretching out her neck, cracking her knuckles like she needed to brace herself. You can't just pick up where we left off. I know. You can't just look at me like that and make me forget what it felt like when you told me to disappear. I didn't mean it. I was scared. So was I, she snapped, then immediately softened. We were both scared, Riley. But you pushed me away, and I didn't fight hard enough to stay. That's on both of us. Then maybe it's time we stop being cowards. She blinked. Her mouth parted like she was going to argue, but no words came out. I kept going because if I didn't say this now, I never would. You meant something to me. You still do. I thought if I ignored it long enough, it would fade. But it didn't. It just got quieter. Until now. Until you showed up and held my hand like I was something you were afraid to lose again. Because I was, she said. Because I am. That hit harder than I expected. She leaned forward, resting her elbows on the bed, closer than before. But I don't know how to do this. How to fix what broke between us. We were messy. We hurt each other. We were kids. You're still reckless, she said with a hint of a smile. Skipping meals, working herself into the ground, apparently fainting in stairwells. I didn't plan that part. Maybe not, she said. But I'm not leaving until I know you're okay. That's not your responsibility anymore. I never stopped caring. I looked at her then, really looked, and saw it. The weight in her eyes, the vulnerability behind the sarcasm, the way her voice trembled even when her words were sharp. She wasn't here for closure. She was here because somewhere deep down, we both knew we had never really ended. We'd just hit pause on a story we were too afraid to finish. What happens when I leave this hospital? I asked. What happens next? She hesitated. I don't know. Maybe we go slow. Maybe we just try. Maybe we get coffee.
Talk.
Like adults this time. I laughed softly. Adults are overrated, says the woman with a fractured leg and no emergency contact other than her ex-situationship from college. Touché. Riley, she said seriously, her hand cupping mine now fully. I want to try. I don't want to walk away again. Not if you don't want me to. I don't, even if it's hard, especially if it's hard. A silence stretched between us, but it was warm now. Heavy, yes, but in a way that felt full instead of empty. Okay, she said finally. Okay. Outside, the first light of morning filtered through the blinds. I hadn't noticed the time. I hadn't noticed anything except her. A nurse knocked softly on the door and entered to check the monitors. Evie pulled back slightly, but didn't let go of my hand. The nurse smiled faintly, but didn't comment. After she left, Evie said, "So what now?" "You get back in the chair," I said, smiling. "And maybe tell me about your life. Where you went, what you've been doing, who you've become." She nodded, settling back in, her fingers never leaving mine. "It's a long story. We've got time." Evie talked and I listened. About Portland, about the freelance design jobs she picked up when the agency work dried out, about the apartment with the leaky faucet and the stray cat that kept showing up on her windowsill, about the nights she drank too much wine alone and wondered if I'd hate her forever. Her voice was soft, her words careful but open, like she wasn't sure how far she was allowed to go. I didn't interrupt. I just watched her, how her fingers moved when she got nervous, how she chewed the inside of her cheek when she talked about the hard parts, how her eyes flicked to mine like she was constantly checking if I was still here, still listening, still letting her talk. I hadn't felt this awake in days. Hell, maybe in months. The painkillers dulled the edges of everything except her. She was sharp. She was real. She was here. "And what about you?" she asked eventually, shifting in the chair to face me more fully. "What's your life look like now?" I shrugged.
Messy.
I work too much. I live in a fourth-floor walk-up that clearly tried to kill me. I bartend 3 nights a week and intern at a gallery where no one knows my name, but somehow still expects me to reorganize the entire catalog system. That sounds awful. It is. I smiled. But sometimes it's not. Do you still paint? That made me pause. Sometimes. I loved your work, she said, almost too quickly. I still remember that one you made senior year, the one with the hands and the gold ink. You remembered that? Of course I did. My throat tightened. I don't paint like that anymore. Why not? Because I haven't felt like myself since we ended. The silence that followed that confession was fragile. Like one wrong move could shatter it completely. She didn't flinch. Riley, I'm not saying that to make you feel guilty. I'm just saying it because it's true. You were in everything back then. Every brushstroke, every layer of color. When you left, it was like the colors stopped making sense. Her eyes glistened. She reached for my hand again, and I let her. I missed you so much, she whispered. Then why didn't you come back? Because I didn't think I deserved to. You didn't. Not then. But maybe now. Maybe we both deserve another try. Her thumb brushed over the back of my hand slowly, rhythmically, like she was memorizing the shape of me all over again. I could feel the tension building between us like a storm cell, thick and electric and undeniable. She looked at me like she wanted to say something, or maybe kiss me, or maybe both. But she didn't. Not yet. Instead, she asked, "Are they treating you okay here?" I blinked.
Yeah.
Why? You're cold. She stood up and crossed to the extra blanket folded on the side table, draping it gently over me. You always ran cold when you were tired. The fact that she remembered that made something twist in my chest. Evie, what? You being here, it's messing with my head. I know. I don't know how to be near you without wanting things I shouldn't. Why shouldn't you want them? Because it still hurts. Because I still don't trust you not to disappear again.
She didn't answer right away.
She just moved to sit beside me. Not in the chair this time, but on the edge of the bed, careful and tentative, but bold enough to make my pulse quicken. Her hip brushed mine. Her hand stayed in mine. What if I proved it to you? She asked quietly. What if I stayed? I looked at her, and this close, I could see the flecks of gray in her eyes, the tiny scar under her bottom lip she got when she fell off her bike in junior year, the faint smell of coffee and rain still clinging to her clothes. Why now? I asked. Why not months ago? Because I was a coward, she admitted. Because I thought you'd moved on. Because I couldn't face you if you hadn't. And now I know I'd rather face your anger than live one more day wondering what could have been. That did it. The part of me that had spent 2 years pretending not to ache for her cracked open. I dreamed about this, I said. About you coming back. Saying the things I needed to hear. And now, she asked, echoing me. Now I don't know if I'm dreaming or if I'm just high on painkillers. She laughed, low and breathy, then leaned forward slightly, her forehead brushing mine. You're not dreaming. I wanted to kiss her.
God, I wanted to.
But something stopped me, some last thread of fear or pride, or maybe just the weight of the past. Don't kiss me unless you mean it, I whispered. Don't kiss me unless you're staying. I'm not going anywhere, she said. And still, she didn't kiss me. Instead, she sat there, close and steady, her presence louder than any touch could be. Then just stay, I said. Stay, and we'll figure it out. Slowly. Slowly, she agreed. She reached for the remote and turned on the tiny wall-mounted TV, finding an old sitcom rerun we used to watch in college. She tucked the blanket around me more snugly, then leaned back against the bed frame beside me, our shoulders touching. We didn't talk for a while. We just existed, breathing in the same space again, letting the weight of old pain settle somewhere behind us. And maybe for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe without breaking. She was still here when I fell asleep again, and when I woke an hour later, her head was resting on my shoulder, her hand still in mine, and I knew, whatever this was, whatever we were starting, it wasn't over. Not this time. The next morning, I was cleared for discharge. The doctor said my vitals had stabilized, that the concussion was mild, and the fracture manageable. A clean break, they called it, like something that could be fixed with time and care and a little patience, unlike whatever had broken between me and Evie 2 years ago. She was still there when the nurse came in with the paperwork, sitting cross-legged in the corner chair with a half-finished cup of vending machine coffee and my phone charger tangled around her wrist, like she'd tethered herself to me and didn't plan on leaving. You don't have to take me home, I told her as the nurse adjusted my crutches. I can manage. You can barely stand, she said. You think I'm letting you crawl up 4 flights of stairs on your own? I've done worse. Yeah, and that's how you ended up here in the first place. I tried to glare at her, but my head was still too foggy, and the look came out more amused than annoyed. She helped me sit upright, handed me the softest hoodie I owned. How the hell she found it, I didn't know, and stood close while the nurse gave me final instructions. She smelled like clean linen and something citrusy, and every time her hand brushed mine, I felt it in places I'd sworn were numb. By the time we got into the car she'd borrowed from a friend, I was exhausted. But not from the injury. From her. From the way she looked at me like she was still learning me all over again. Like she'd forgotten nothing. "You kept the playlist," I said when the speakers filled the small car with the unmistakable opening chords of a song we used to play on every drive to the coast. "You think I delete anything that reminds me of you?" she said without looking at me, her voice casual but her knuckles white on the steering wheel. "You used to." "I used to be a coward. I'm trying something else now." She drove carefully, hands steady, eyes sharp on the road. I leaned my head against the window and watched the city slide by, trying not to feel the way her presence filled the entire car like it was something physical, something I could touch. By the time we reached my apartment, I was already dreading the climb. "You don't have an elevator?" she asked, staring up at the cracked stairs with something between horror and disbelief. "I'm a broke artist, not a corporate heiress." "You were always stubborn. I just forgot how much." "Still sure you want to do this?" I asked. "It's not too late to abandon me on the sidewalk." She stepped in front of me, took the crutches from my hands, slung my bag over her shoulder, and said, "Try me." We made it up slowly. Her arm was firm around my waist, steadying me without smothering, her breath close to my ear, her skin warm against mine every time we stopped to rest. By the time we reached the top, I was sweating and lightheaded, but also breathless for an entirely different reason. "Welcome to my palace," I said, unlocking the door with a flourish and nearly falling into the entryway. She followed me inside, dropped the bag, and looked around like she was trying to map my life from the mess. "Still allergic to organizing," she said, picking up a paint-stained shirt from the back of the couch. "Still hot when you're judgy," I shot back. She raised an eyebrow, but didn't respond. Instead, she walked into the kitchen like she'd done it 100 times before, opened a cabinet, found the tea mugs without asking. Her muscle memory made my chest ache. "You kept everything the same," she said. "Not everything." She turned to look at me. "No, you're not here." That made her pause. "Do you want me to be?" I didn't answer. Not with words. I just watched her. Watched the way she leaned back against the counter, mug in hand, fingers tapping the ceramic slowly like she was counting heartbeats. "Riley," she said finally, "you need to rest. I need a shower first. I feel disgusting." She stepped forward. "You want help?" I froze. "Don't say that unless you mean it." "I always mean it with you. It's not a joke to me." "I know." I searched her face for the hesitation I expected. There wasn't any. Just warmth. Hunger. A patience that felt like it could unravel me. "I don't trust this," I whispered. "I don't trust how easy this feels." "It's not easy," she said, stepping closer. "It's terrifying. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you." I felt my breath catch. Her hand found my waist, just barely grazing the hem of my hoodie, and suddenly my body remembered everything. The way her fingers used to slide under my shirt in the dark. The way her mouth tasted like cinnamon gum and late-night promises. The way she touched me like I was something fragile and holy. I closed my eyes. "Okay," I said. "Help me." She guided me to the bathroom without speaking. No rush. No expectations. Just her hand at the small of my back and her silence wrapped around me like a blanket. When she helped me out of the hoodie, her fingers brushed the bruises on my side, and she winced. "I should have come back sooner. But you're here now." Her eyes met mine in the mirror, and the look she gave me was full of everything we hadn't said. "Can I?" she asked, motioning toward the hem of my shirt. I nodded. She undressed me slowly, carefully, reverently. Like every inch of me was a confession. She didn't kiss me. Not yet. Just touched. Just looked. And when I was bare and trembling and still somehow safe, she helped me into the warm spray of the water, her hand steadying me as I leaned on her shoulder. She didn't leave. She stayed, fully clothed, holding me upright, whispering soft things against my hair. "I've got you," she murmured. "I'm not going anywhere." And for the first time in a long time, I believed her. Maybe this was the beginning. Or maybe it was the middle we never got to have. Either way, I didn't want her to let go. The moment we stepped out of the bathroom, the air between us had changed. Something raw had shifted in the silence, a quiet but electric charge that made it hard to breathe without thinking about how her hands had felt on my skin, steady and sure and trembling at the same time. I was wearing an oversized t-shirt she found in my dresser, one I didn't even remember keeping, and she was still damp from the steam, strands of hair clinging to her cheeks, her clothes clinging to her body. We didn't say anything. Not at first. She helped me to the bed, helped me get settled against the pillows, then stood at the foot of it like she didn't know what came next. Like she was waiting for me to decide. I looked at her. Not glanced, looked. Took in the nervous twist of her fingers, the way her chest rose and fell like she was trying not to fall apart, the way her eyes locked on mine like they were asking permission to stay this close. "You can sit," I said, voice soft but certain. "I'm not going to kick you out." "That's not what I'm afraid of," she said. "Then what are you afraid of?" "That if I touch you again, I won't be able to stop." That made my pulse stutter. I swallowed hard. "Then maybe don't stop." She blinked, like I'd just given her something fragile and dangerous all at once. Then she crossed the room, slow, deliberate, and sat beside me on the bed. Her thigh brushed mine. Her hand hovered above my knee, not quite touching. "You're sure?" she asked. "This isn't about guilt or comfort. This is real." "I know it is," I said. "I've never been more sure of anything." That was all it took. She kissed me. Soft at first, testing, her lips feathering over mine like a memory. And then again, deeper, more certain, her hand coming up to cradle the side of my face, as if to prove she was really here. I kissed her back like I'd been starving for it. Because I had. For 2 years. For all the nights, I lay awake wondering if she thought about me too. For every dream I'd had where she said she was sorry and meant it. For the ache that never really left my chest. Her mouth was warm and familiar and new all at once, and when she slipped her fingers into my hair, I made a sound I hadn't meant to make. Something raw, something needy. She pulled back just enough to look at me. "You okay? Don't stop." She didn't. Her hands traced the edge of my jaw, the line of my collarbone, the shape of my waist like she was relearning all the ways I fit under her touch. I reached for her too, tangled my fingers in her damp shirt, tugged her closer until she was half on the bed, half on top of me, careful of my leg, of the bruises, but not shy about the way her body pressed into mine. It wasn't fast. It wasn't frantic. It was slow, deliberate, a kind of worship I hadn't known I needed. Her lips moved down my neck, over the fading bruises, like she could kiss the damage away. "I'm sorry," she whispered into my skin. "For leaving. For not fighting. For making you believe you weren't enough." "You didn't make me believe that," I said, breath hitching. "I just did." "Then let me unmake it." She kissed her way back up to my mouth, and I let her. Let her strip away the layers of fear and distance and resentment until all that was left was this, heat and hunger and something deeper that scared me more than either. Love. It was still there, woven into every touch, every sigh, every way she whispered my name like it meant something sacred. We didn't rush. She was careful with me, patient, like she understood that this wasn't just about sex. It was about being chosen, about being wanted, about being seen. Her body fit against mine like it always had, like we'd been made to find our way back to this exact moment. When she finally sank down beside me, chest rising and falling, face flushed and eyes wide, she looked at me like I was the only thing in the world. "I missed you," she said again. "Not just the idea of you. You. All of you." I reached for her, pulled her closer, pressed my forehead to hers. "You have no idea how long I've wanted to hear that." "I'm going to prove it," she said. "Every day. However long it takes." I didn't say anything. I just kissed her again, slow and deep, and let her crawl under the covers with me like no time had passed at all. Later, When our breathing had slowed and the morning light had started to slip through the curtains, she traced lazy circles on my bare shoulder and whispered, "I can't believe you're letting me stay." "You make it sound like it was your decision to leave." It was, but it doesn't feel like it anymore. It feels like I've been running in circles trying to get back here. "You're here now." She smiled, soft and quiet and content in a way I hadn't seen in years.
"Yeah," she said.
"I am." We fell asleep like that, twisted together, skin to skin, hearts finally in sync. And for the first time in a long time, the silence between us didn't hurt. It healed. The next morning, the light through the curtains was soft and golden, the kind of light that made things look gentler than they were. I woke up tangled in her arm draped over my waist, her breath steady against the back of my neck, her legs curled carefully around mine to avoid my bandaged one. It should have felt perfect. It almost did. But there was something in my chest, something fluttering and sharp, the start of a fear I hadn't let myself name yet. Because what we had right now, it felt too good.
Too easy.
Too fragile. I stayed still for as long as I could, listening to the quiet of the apartment, the occasional car outside, the hum of life beyond these walls. Eventually she stirred. "You're awake," she mumbled, her voice rough with sleep. "You're warm," I said. She nuzzled closer.
"Good.
I plan on staying right here for at least another hour." I laughed, but it was soft, hesitant. "We have to face the world at some point." "Why?" she said, already kissing the back of my shoulder. "The world sucks. This is better." "Because I need to eat something that isn't hospital jello or instant oatmeal." She groaned dramatically and flopped onto her back.
"Fine."
Ruin the moment with logic. I sat up slowly, testing the ache in my leg. Still stiff, but manageable. She reached for me without thinking, helping me up like it was instinct, like touching me had become natural again. I leaned on the crutches and made my way to the bathroom while she rummaged in the kitchen. 10 minutes later, I returned to the smell of coffee and burnt toast. "You still can't cook," I said. "And you still like judging me before noon," she replied. We sat on the couch together, sharing bad coffee and slightly less bad eggs. She kept glancing at me like she didn't quite believe I was real, and I knew I was doing the same. After breakfast, she offered to help me get dressed. I said no. She insisted. I gave in when I realized how much effort it would take to put on jeans by myself. Her hands were warm and steady, and even when they lingered a little too long on my hips, she didn't push. She just smiled, helped me zip up the hoodie, and whispered, "You look like trouble." "You make me feel like it," I said.
"Good."
We left the apartment a little after noon. The city felt too bright, too loud, like it didn't know what we'd just gone through. I walked slowly, crutches clicking against the sidewalk, and she stayed close, one hand on my back like she didn't trust the pavement not to betray me again. We stopped at the cafe around the corner, the one I always went to after work but never told her about. She ordered our drinks without asking, still remembered exactly how I liked mine. That shouldn't have made my heart swell the way it did, but it did. We sat by the window, and for a while everything felt easy, until a girl from the gallery walked in. Marnie. Tall, sharp, perfect hair, the kind of confident that always made me feel like I was still figuring out how to stand. She spotted me immediately. "Riley," she said, surprise and concern flooding her voice. "Jesus, what happened?" "Fell," I said simply. "Got a concussion and a fracture for my efforts." "Shit," she said, sliding into the seat beside me before I could stop her. "I didn't even know you were in the hospital." I gave a tight smile. I didn't tell anyone. Evie didn't speak. She just watched, stiff beside me, her expression unreadable. Marnie leaned closer. "You okay? Do you need anything?" I could talk to Elise, maybe get you some time off at the gallery. "No, it's fine," I said quickly. "I'm okay." "Still," she said, glancing at Evie for the first time. "Who's this?" "Evie," I said before Evie could. "An old friend." Evie raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. Marnie offered a polite smile. "Nice to meet you." "You too," Evie said coolly. "Riley's told me so much about you."
A lie.
A pointed one. Marnie laughed lightly. Hope it was all good. Mostly, Evie said, tone breezy but sharp. My pulse spiked. Marnie eventually left, but the damage was done. As soon as we were alone again, Evie turned to me. Old friend. It's not like I could say, hey, this is the woman who broke my heart 2 years ago, but spent the night wrapped around me like a second skin. You could have just said girlfriend. Are we? That made her go quiet. I don't know, she admitted. Are we? I don't do half measures, Evie. Not anymore. Neither do I. But I also don't want to scare you off by naming something we haven't rebuilt yet. I looked at her, the way she looked like she wanted to run but was choosing not to. Then don't say it unless you're ready to mean it. I meant everything last night, she said. Every touch. Every word. But if we're doing this, I want to do it right. No pretending. No disappearing. Then prove it, I said. Stay. Come to bed with me tonight, and again the next night, and not just when it's easy or quiet or romantic. Come when I'm tired and bitchy and healing. Be here when it's hard. I want to be, she said. I'm trying to be. Then don't flinch when someone asks who you are. She nodded. Okay. And she meant it. I saw it in her eyes. That night, back at the apartment, she cooked pasta that came out slightly overdone, and we watched old movies on my laptop, legs tangled, laughter easy again. But when we lay down in bed, she didn't touch me right away. She looked at me like she was waiting for something. Say it, she whispered. What? That I can stay. I reached for her hand under the blanket and laced our fingers together. Stay, I said. Stay, Evie. And this time I believed she would. It had been 5 days since Evie showed up at my hospital bed, and somehow, against all logic, she was still here. She stayed through the awkwardness, the healing, the nights curled into each other without needing to speak. She stocked my fridge, made coffee that somehow always tasted better when it came from her hands, left sticky notes with bad doodles and sarcastic reminders to eat. It was domestic and intimate and terrifying, because I kept waiting for the moment when it would fall apart again. And when it finally did, it wasn't explosive. It wasn't loud. It started with a phone call. She was making us breakfast, her phone buzzing against the counter. I wasn't going to check it. I respected her space, her boundaries, but when she didn't hear it and I saw the name light up on the screen, something in my chest tightened so fast it almost knocked the air out of me. Jules, 3 missed calls. I didn't recognize the name, but I recognized the instinct. My hands shook. I turned away, tried to focus on the pain in my leg instead of the one rising in my chest. She came into the room humming, carrying 2 plates. I made the eggs right this time. Miracles happen. I didn't answer. She looked up.
Hey.
What's wrong? Who's Jules? The silence was immediate. Not defensive. Not guilty. Just still. Someone I dated. A while ago. How long is a while? Few months. It wasn't serious. Did she know that? Riley, you've been talking to her?
No.
She's been calling. I haven't answered.
Why?
Because I'm here. With you. Because I don't want to talk to her. Then why didn't you block her? Because I didn't think I had to. I looked at her, tried to read the truth in her face, but all I could feel was that familiar panic rising up, like I was seconds away from being left behind again. You didn't think you had to. Because I'm just what? A pause? A nostalgic vacation from your real life? Don't do that, she said, voice low. Don't twist this. Then tell me what this is. This, she said, stepping closer, is me trying. This is me waking up next to you every morning, cooking terrible food, kissing your shoulder while you sleep.
This is me staying.
But if you're looking for a reason not to believe it, you're going to find one. You kissed me, I said. You touched me like I meant something. And now there's someone else's name showing up on your screen like a reminder that I'm temporary. You're not temporary. Then why does this feel like a countdown? Her face fell. Riley, I don't know what else I can do to prove I'm here. Maybe I don't need proof. Maybe I need you to choose. Loudly.
Publicly.
Like it matters. It does matter. You matter. then block her. The words were out before I could stop them.
Now.
She hesitated. Not for long, but long enough. I looked away. Forget it. No, she said. You're right. She pulled out her phone, tapped the screen, and showed me. Done. I nodded, throat burning. It's not about her. You know that, right? I know. It's about trust. And I broke it once, she said. So now everything feels like a test.
Yeah.
Okay, she whispered. Then let me keep passing them. That night, we barely spoke. Not out of anger, but out of the quiet exhaustion that comes from touching a wound you thought had healed. We lay side by side, her hand searching for mine under the blanket, and I let her find it. But I didn't hold on as tightly. We're going to fight sometimes, she said. I know. And you're going to get scared. I already am. Me too, she admitted. But I'm still here. Are you? I turned to her, eyes wet. I don't want to do this with anyone else. She kissed my forehead. Then let's do it. Messy.
Scared.
All in. I curled into her, finally letting myself cry. And for once, it didn't feel like falling apart. It felt like rebuilding. The morning after the fight, the light in the apartment felt different.
Softer.
Like the air itself was exhaling, relieved we hadn't broken apart. We moved slowly around each other, quiet but not distant, our silences filled with the weight of everything we hadn't said last night, and the relief of still being here to say it. She brought me coffee without asking, sat beside me on the couch without a word, and when I leaned into her, she wrapped her arms around me like it was the most natural thing in the world. I keep thinking, I said quietly, about how easy it would be to fall back into old patterns. You mean running? She asked. I mean expecting you to. I'm not going to run, Riley. I know. And I did. Somewhere under the ache and fear and fragile hope, I knew she meant it. But knowing and trusting weren't always the same. She kissed my hair. What if we made this real? It already feels real. I mean real. No more half steps. No more sleeping on couches or pretending like this is temporary. I turned to her. What are you saying? I want to stay. Not just crash here. Not just play house until you're better. I want to live here.
With you.
My heart stuttered. You want to move in? If you want me to. That's a big step. So, is trusting me again. And you're already doing that. I searched her face. What about your life? Your job? Your apartment? My lease is month to month. My job's remote. My life is wherever you are. That made my throat close. I'm scared, I whispered. Me too, she said. But I'm more scared of walking away from this again. I reached for her hand. Then let's try. For real. All in. She nodded. All in. We spent the rest of the day sorting through logistics. She went back to her place to grab essentials, and I stayed behind, staring at the empty corner of my room that would soon hold her things. I hadn't lived with anyone before. Not like this. Not someone I loved. When she came back hours later, arms full of clothes and books and the same throw blanket we used to fight over in college, I felt something click into place. We made dinner together, burnt vegetables and too much garlic, and danced barefoot in the kitchen to a playlist we built in between laughter and soft kisses. Later, as we lay in bed, her fingers tracing patterns on my skin, she said, I used to imagine this. What?
You. Me.
A place that was ours. Waking up beside you. Coming home to you. I turned to face her. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because I didn't think I deserved it. And now I'm choosing it. Every day. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I kissed her then. Not urgent. Not needy. Just deep and slow, and full of everything I couldn't say out loud. She pulled me closer, wrapped herself around me, and we stayed like that until sleep found us. In the days that followed, we built a rhythm. Grocery runs and lazy mornings, shared playlists and spontaneous midday kisses. She learned how I liked my tea. I memorized the way she sighed when she read. We argued about closet space. We made up in the shower. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. One night, curled on the couch watching some terrible movie we weren't really paying attention to, she looked at me and said, "I love you." Just like that. No build-up. No warning. Just the truth, raw and simple and devastatingly beautiful. I froze. My chest cracked open. And then I said it back. "I love you too." She smiled, kissed me slow, and whispered, "God, I missed hearing you say that." "Say it again," I said. "I love you." Once more. "I love you, Riley. I always have." I pressed my forehead to hers, heart racing. "Then stay. Forever." "Try to get rid of me," she whispered. And I knew I wasn't waiting for her to choose me anymore. She already had. And this time, we were choosing each other. Every day. Without hesitation. Without fear. Without running. 3 months later, everything had changed, and somehow nothing had. The apartment still smelled like coffee and paint, and laundry left a little too long in the dryer. The mornings were still slow, sleepy, tangled in blankets and legs and whispers. But now there was a toothbrush beside mine, a record player by the window, her boots by the door. Her presence wasn't temporary anymore. It was woven into everything. The first time we fought after she moved in, really fought, not just playful jabs or jealous glances. We didn't fall apart. I yelled. She yelled back. I cried. She didn't run. She held me, stubborn and steady, and said, "I'm not going anywhere."
And she meant it.
That became the rhythm of us.
Messy.
Devoted.
Real.
We built a life slowly, brick by brick. She took over the tiny desk in the corner for her design projects. I got promoted at the gallery and started painting again. Real paintings, the kind I hadn't been able to touch since she left the first time. We hosted movie nights with friends, adopted a rescue cat with one ear and a serious attitude problem, learned how to navigate each other's silences without filling them. There were days I still panicked, woke up convinced she'd be gone, found myself holding my breath when she took too long to text back. But every time, she proved me wrong. With patience, with presence, with love. On a rainy Saturday in April, she dragged me out of bed before sunrise. "Come on," she whispered against my neck. "It's important. If this is about a farmer's market again, I swear. Shut up and put on your jacket." We walked 3 blocks in silence, her hand in mine, rain slicking the pavement in soft reflections of streetlights. She took me to the rooftop of the building we used to sneak into in college, back when we were pretending not to be in love. It hadn't changed. Same rusted railing. Same humming AC units. Same view of the skyline slowly waking up. "Why are we here?" I asked, breath catching from the climb. "Because this is where I first knew," she said, "that I loved you, that I didn't want to love anyone else." My heart stopped. She pulled something small from her coat pocket. Not a ring.
A key.
"What's this?" I asked. "A studio," she said. "It's tiny, has terrible light, but it's all yours. Paid first 3 months. No strings.
I want you to have space. To create.
For you." I stared at her, stunned. "Evie, I don't need a ring to promise I'm staying," she said. "But I need you to know that I see you. All of you. The artist.
The mess.
The woman I never stopped loving." Tears blurred my vision. "This is the most romantic thing anyone's ever done for me." "Good," she said, brushing my cheek. "Because I'm not done." I laughed through the tears. "You better be proposing." "Not yet," she said. "But someday, when we're ready, when we've built enough of this life together that it's not just love, but legacy." I kissed her, hard and deep and soaked in rain. And when we pulled back, I whispered, "Then let's keep building." She nodded. One stubborn, terrifying, beautiful day at a time. We stayed on the rooftop until the sun rose fully, wrapped in each other, in everything we'd survived. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't a second chance. It was our real beginning. Because loving her had never been the hard part. Believing I deserved to be loved back, that was the fight. And I'd finally won. Thank you so much for your support, whether it's by liking, commenting, sharing, or sending your super thanks. You make all the difference here on the channel. See you in the next video.